One of them can dive out of the sky at over 200 miles an hour, making it the single fastest animal on the entire planet, faster than a race car. One of them was down to just a few hundred pairs and nearly wiped off the continent forever, and has since staged one of the greatest comebacks in the history of American wildlife. And one of them is barely bigger than a robin, hunts grasshoppers from a fence post, and is, believe it or not, a fearsome bird of prey. 3 birds. One question: what do they have in common? They are all raptors, the eagles, hawks, and falcons of North America. And by the time we're done, you'll be able to look up at almost any bird of prey and know, in seconds, exactly what it is. For most people, every big bird circling overhead is just a hawk. But North America is home to dozens of distinct birds of prey, each one a different masterpiece of hunting design, from a bird lighter than a soda can to one with a 7-foot wingspan. And once you learn a handful of simple rules, telling them apart becomes genuinely easy, and honestly, a little addictive. We're going to go through the eagles, the hawks, and the falcons of this continent, group by group and species by species, and along the way, I'm going to hand you the exact system that expert birders use to identify a raptor at a single glance, often from so far away you can't make out a single feather, just a shape against the sky. Learn it, and a whole hidden layer of the world opens up above your head. So let's start with the most important secret of all, the one that changes everything. Here it is. You do not identify a raptor by its color. This is the mistake almost everyone makes. The problem is that a bird's color changes dramatically over its life and between individuals. Young birds often look nothing like adults for their first few years, and many species come in different color morphs, ranging from nearly white all the way to a sooty near black, all within the same species. Chase the color, and you'll be wrong constantly. Instead, the experts read 3 things: size, silhouette, and flight style. The proportions of the wings and tail, and the way a bird carries and moves itself through the air, give it away far more reliably than any plumage color ever could. Birders even have a word for that overall impression of shape and movement. They call it the bird's giss. Master those 3 things, and you can name a distant speck that's little more than a moving shadow against the clouds. So let's build the framework, one group at a time, and the very first group is the easiest of all because they're simply enormous. The eagles. North America has 2 eagles, and they are the giants of the sky. Massive birds with wingspans reaching 7 feet, so large they can look almost like a flying door when they pass overhead. In flight, an eagle holds its long, broad, plank-like wings out flat and soars with barely a flap, and its sheer size alone separates it instantly from any hawk. But telling the 2 eagles apart is the first real ID challenge, and it's a good one. The bald eagle is unmistakable as an adult, a dark chocolate brown body topped with that iconic snow-white head and matching white tail, and a heavy, hooked yellow beak. It's a fish specialist above all, which is why you'll almost always find it near water, coasts, big rivers, and lakes where it snatches fish from the surface with its talons, though it's not above bullying a meal away from another bird or scavenging a carcass. It also builds the largest nest of any bird in North America, a stick platform that grows year after year until it can weigh over a ton. Its story is the crown jewel of American conservation. In the 1960s, poisoned by the pesticide DDT, which thinned their eggshells until they shattered under the parents, bald eagles crashed to only around 400 nesting pairs in the lower 48 and stood on the very edge of vanishing. After DDT was banned and the birds were fiercely protected, they came roaring back in what may be the greatest wildlife recovery ever recorded. Today there are well over 300,000 of them, and in 2024, the bald eagle was, after almost 2.5 centuries, finally made the official national bird of the United States. The golden eagle is a different beast entirely. Where the bald eagle is a fisherman of the waterways, the golden eagle is a hunter of the open country, the mountains, plains, and canyons of the West, a supremely powerful predator whose crushing talons take rabbits, ground squirrels, marmots, and remarkably, prey as large as young deer and pronghorn. It's a rich, uniform dark brown all over, lit by a beautiful wash of golden feathers across the back of its head and neck that gives the bird its name. Here's the key identification trap. Young bald eagles are also entirely brown. Without the white head and tail, they won't grow for 4 or 5 years, and they get mistaken for goldens constantly. The reliable tells are subtle details of the leg feathering and the pattern of white in the wings, but the simplest shortcut is habitat and behavior. A big brown eagle chasing mammals across open western land is almost always a golden, while one loafing beside a lake or river is far more likely a young bald. Now, we come to the biggest and most confusing group of all, the hawks, the buteos, the soaring hawks. Here's where most people get lost, so let's simplify it completely. North America's hawks split into two very different body plans, and telling those two groups apart is 90% of the battle. The first group is the buteos, the big, broad-winged soaring hawks, and the king of them, the most common and widespread hawk on the entire continent, is the red-tailed hawk. Learn the red-tailed hawk and you have your anchor for the whole group. It's a large, sturdy hawk with broad, plank-like wings and a short, wide, fan-shaped tail that, on an adult, glows a beautiful brick red in the sunlight. You've seen it 1,000 times without ever knowing it, perched on highway light poles and fence posts, or circling lazily in wide, slow loops high overhead as it scans the ground for prey. And you have absolutely heard it. That piercing, raspy, descending scream that Hollywood dubs over every eagle in every movie is not an eagle at all. The bald eagle actually makes a weak, almost comical chittering sound, so filmmakers swap in the far more majestic cry of the red-tailed hawk instead. That mismatch is one of the great open secrets of nature on screen, and it gives you the buteo blueprint. Broad wings, a short fan tail, and a habit of soaring in patient circles or perching out in the open, waiting and watching for rodents below. Red tails also come in a bewildering range of shades, from nearly white to chocolate dark, which is the perfect reminder of why we ignore color and read shape instead. Once you know the red tail, the other buteos click into place as variations on that same theme. The red-shouldered hawk is a slimmer, far more colorful woodland version, with bold black and white checkered wings, warm rusty shoulders, and a crisply banded tail, calling loudly and repeatedly from the trees in wet forests and near water. The broad-winged hawk is a small, compact, stocky buteo, famous for one of nature's single greatest spectacles. Every autumn, they gather by the tens of thousands into swirling, funneling tornadoes of birds called kettles, spiraling upward on columns of warm air before streaming south toward Central and South America, a river of hawks that draws crowds of watchers to ridgelines across the east. The Swainson's hawk of the Western Plains makes an even more staggering journey, migrating all the way to the grasslands of Argentina and back, one of the longest migrations of any American raptor. The ferruginous hawk is the largest buteo of all, a broad, pale, rusty-legged giant of the open prairie that can look almost eagle-like. And the rough-legged hawk breeds on the high Arctic tundra and, like the kestrel, hunts by hovering in one spot on beating wings, staring down at the lemmings and voles moving below. Same basic body plan, 6 completely different lives. But the second group of hawks flies in a completely different way. The accipiters, the bird-hunting hawks. If the buteos are built to soar over open ground, the accipiters are built to ambush through the trees. These are the bird-hunting hawks, and they cut a totally different silhouette. Short, rounded wings, and a long, rudder-like tail, a design engineered for exploding through dense forest in tight, twisting, high-speed pursuit of other birds, threading between branches at full tilt without clipping a wing. Their flight style is the real giveaway, and it's unmistakable once you know it. Not the lazy, patient soaring of a buteo, but a distinctive, snappy, urgent rhythm of several quick flaps, followed by a short, flat glide. Flap, 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 glide over and over. Once you've spotted that stuttering cadence crossing the sky, you'll recognize an accipiter every time, even at a distance where the bird is just a dark shape. And these are the hawks in your backyard. If a hawk comes rocketing through your yard and snatches a sparrow or a dove off the feeder in a burst of feathers, it's almost certainly an accipiter. These birds have learned that a busy bird feeder is a well-stocked buffet. There are 3 of them in North America, and telling the smaller 2 apart is one of the great classic headaches of birding. The sharp-shinned hawk is tiny, barely bigger than a blue jay, with a small rounded head that barely projects past the wings, thin pencil legs, and a square-tipped tail. The Cooper's hawk is noticeably larger, up to the size of a crow, with a bigger, blockier head that thrusts well out in front like a flying cross, sturdier legs, and a rounded tail tipped with a bold white band. The maddening catch is that a large female sharp-shinned and a small male Cooper's overlap almost exactly in size, and even veteran birders sometimes throw up their hands and simply log it as an accipiter. The third and final one, recently reclassified and renamed the American goshawk, is the largest and fiercest of the three, a powerful, broad-winged, ghost gray raptor of deep northern forests. Legendary for defending its nest against absolutely anything that comes too close, humans very much included, dive-bombing intruders with raking talons. Now, before we reach the falcons, there's one hawk that fits none of these molds at all. The northern harrier. This one is the oddball, and it's wonderfully easy to identify once you know it. The northern harrier is a slim, long-winged, long-tailed hawk that hunts in a way no other raptor does. It flies low and slow over marshes and open fields, tilting and wobbling just a few feet above the ground, quartering back and forth like a bloodhound working a scent. It even holds its wings up in a shallow V as it glides, another instant tell. And it has a secret that betrays exactly how it hunts. Look closely at its face and you'll see a distinct disc of stiff feathers, exactly like an owl's. That facial disc funnels sound to its ears, letting the harrier hunt partly by listening for the faint rustle of mice moving in the grass beneath it, prey it often can't even see. It's the only North American hawk to hunt by ear this way. There's one more foolproof field mark, a bright, clean white patch of feathers right at the base of the tail, on the rump that flashes like a beacon every time the bird banks and turns. Males are a pale, ghostly gray. Birders nickname them the gray ghost, while females and youngsters are warm brown, but both flash that same white rump. Low, tilting, wobbling flight over an open field, wings lifted in a shallow V, and a flashing white rump that, without a shred of doubt, is a northern harrier. Now, at last, we reach the fastest hunters in the entire sky. The falcons. Falcons are a group apart, and their silhouette is unmistakable once it clicks. Long, narrow, sharply pointed wings that sweep back like a swept-wing jet, and a long, slim tail. They don't have the broad, soaring wings of a hawk. They are built for pure, blistering speed, powered by fast, shallow, powerful wing beats. A falcon slicing across the sky looks like a drawn bow or an anchor, and it moves with a purpose and velocity nothing else can match. The most famous falcon is the peregrine, and for very good reason. It is the fastest animal that has ever lived. When a peregrine spots a bird flying below it, it climbs high above its target and then folds its wings into a teardrop and drops into a dive called a stoop, plummeting at more than 240 miles an hour, faster than a Formula One car, and striking its prey with a balled, clenched foot in a mid-air explosion of feathers. Its body is specially built to survive that speed. Baffles in its nostrils tame the air rushing in, and a third, clear eyelid wipes its eyes clean mid-dive. Like the bald eagle, the peregrine was gutted by DDT and disappeared from the entire eastern United States, only to be hauled back from the brink through one of the most ambitious captive breeding efforts ever attempted, and today, it not only survives but thrives, nesting on the ledges of downtown skyscrapers which stand in perfectly for the cliff faces it loves, above city streets teeming with pigeons. The other falcons round out the family beautifully. The American kestrel is the smallest falcon in North America, scarcely bigger than a robin, and pound for pound among the most gorgeous birds on the continent. The male painted in slate blue, warm rust, and black, with two bold, dark slashes down its face. It hunts by hovering in place over roadsides and fields, hanging in the air on rapidly beating wings before dropping onto grasshoppers, mice, and small birds, and although it's still fairly common, it has been quietly and worryingly vanishing across much of the continent for decades, for reasons scientists are still working to fully understand. The merlin is a small, dark, thick-set, absolutely relentless little falcon that runs down songbirds in a flat-out, high-speed tail chase and rarely gives up. The prairie falcon is the peregrine's pale, dust-colored cousin, a bird of the arid canyons and deserts of the West. And the Gerfalcon is the largest falcon on the entire planet, a massive, immensely powerful hunter of the high Arctic that ranges in color from dark charcoal to a breathtaking, almost pure white, and was for centuries the most prized and coveted bird in the ancient royal sport of falconry. So those are the three core groups, but a handful of birds of prey stubbornly refuse to fit neatly into any of them. The ones that don't fit the mold. A handful of raptors deserve their own special mention. The osprey is perhaps the most important of them. a large, striking brown and white raptor found near water on nearly every continent on Earth, and the only bird of prey in North America that eats almost nothing but live fish. It hunts by hovering high over the water, then folding up and plunging feet first in a dramatic, drenching splash, sometimes disappearing completely beneath the surface before hauling itself back into the air with a fish clutched beneath it. Its feet are specialized tools, with a reversible outer toe and rough, spiny scales that lock around slippery prey. In the air, it holds its long wings in a distinctive crook or kink, forming a flattened letter M, and because it's big and pale-headed, it's constantly mistaken for a bald eagle, but it sits in a scientific family entirely its own. Then, there are the kites. The impossibly elegant, buoyant swallow-tailed kite and the sleek gray Mississippi kite of the South, which catch and eat dragonflies and other insects on the wing with a grace that makes them look more like giant swallows than birds of prey. And a quick, honest word on the birds people expect to find on this list but won't. The OWLs are raptors too, but they work the night shift, a completely separate order, built to hunt in silence and darkness, and a whole story of their own. And the enormous birds you'll sometimes see soaring on the thermals with broad wings and spread, fingered wingtips, the turkey and black vultures, and the magnificent California condor, the largest land bird on the continent with a wingspan approaching 10 feet, are technically scavengers, not true raptors, though the condor's own recovery from just 22 individuals in the 1980s to over 500 today ranks among the most astonishing rescues in all of conservation history. Now, let's lock in everything you've learned. Here's your complete field guide, the system you'll actually use when a bird of prey passes overhead. First, judge the size. Enormous, with long flat wings held like planks? That's an eagle. If it's smaller, look at the shape. Broad, rounded wings with a short fan tail, soaring in slow circles. That's a buteo, most likely the ubiquitous red-tailed hawk. Short rounded wings with a long tail, flapping and gliding through the trees after other birds, that's an accipiter, like a Cooper's hawk. Flying low over a field with wings in a V and a white rump, northern harrier. And if you see long pointed swept-back wings and blistering powerful flight, you're looking at a falcon. A tiny, colorful one hovering over a roadside is a kestrel, and a big one diving like a missile is a peregrine. That's it. That's the whole system. Size, then silhouette, then flight style, and suddenly the confusing scatter of hawks resolves into a cast of distinct, knowable characters, each with its own way of ruling its own patch of sky. These birds are more than beautiful. They are the sharp end of a healthy ecosystem, controlling rodents and keeping the natural balance, and several of them have clawed their way back from the very edge of extinction thanks to people who cared. So the next time a shadow wheels overhead and someone next to you says, "Look, a hawk," you'll be able to glance up, read the size and the shape and the flight, and tell them exactly which magnificent hunter is really up there, riding the wind,